Commission meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. The chair, clerk, and technical facilitator are responsible for muting and unmuting committee members. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. During any roll call, all panelists will be unmuted briefly. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which their hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email list in today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. The first item of business is roll call. We do have a quorum present. The next item is public comment. Do we have any individuals that have any public comment? Seeing none, thank you. The next item is communications, disclosures, and recusals. Do any of the commission members have any of those items? Seeing none. Minutes of the August 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. Do any of the commission members have any corrections or changes to those minutes? If so, raise your hand. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by?
I'll move. This is Lindsay Lemmer.
Commissioner Limmer, thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Heck. Thank you very much. All those, I'll assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand. Seeing no raised hands, it's approved unanimously. The next item of business is schedule of meetings. Our next meeting is October 4th. And in October, we have a 4th and the 18th. In November, we have a meeting on November 8th and 22nd. The Plan Commission also has a special meeting on September 30th at 5 p.m. Moving to the agenda, we have items on the agenda that we call consent items. Those items are items that staff believes the application has been sufficiently reviewed by all the city departments, and they place their appropriate conditions on those items. The applicant has accepted all those conditions, and there are no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition. We have several items on the consent agenda. I'll read those. And if any of the commission members have any items that they'd like to pull off the consent agenda, please raise your hand. The consent agenda is made up of items number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 3 items of referral. Those are 7, 8, and 9. And items on the consent are 11, 12, 13, and 14. Do any of the commission members want to have any of those items pulled off the consent? Seeing none, I will read those items. I'll open the public hearing and read those items into the record. Item number 2, Legislator 66787, authorizing the acceptance of ownership of Summit Woods Neighborhood Association of an informational kiosk, 2 benches, perennial flower garden, and decorative landscape located in Mohawk Pass Triangular Park at 1001 Mohawk Pass. Item number 3, Legislator 67056, authorizing the acceptance of ownership from the Ridgewood Neighborhood Association of a Little Free Library located in Glacier Hills Park at 1018 Glacier Hills Drive. Item number 4, Legislator 67093, authorizing the city acceptance of ownership from the Walnut Grove Home Association of the existing Walnut Grove neighborhood sign and decorative landscape garden located within Walnut Grove Park near the North Westfield Road and Southwick Circle intersection. Item number 5, Legislator 67108, partial discontinuance and vacating of public streets right-of-way of Appleton Road between South Street and Fish Hatchery Road. Item number 6, Legislator 67132, authorizing the Planning Division and Engineering Division to submit a request to the Capital Area Regional Plan Commission to amend the environmental corridor map to remove 4401, 4421, and 4429 Westport Road from the environmental corridor. Items 7, 8, and 9 are requested by the applicant to be referred to the October 4th, 2021 meeting. Item number 11, Legislator 66550, 501 East Badger Road, consideration of a demolition permit to allow a street-facing facade to be demolished and consideration of a conditional use pursuant to section 28.139 of the zoning code for non-residential development adjacent to a public park, all in order to partially renovate the existing Badger Rock Middle School and construct an addition to house the Southside Elementary School. Item number 12, Legislator 66595, 201 South Gammon Road, consideration of a conditional use in the campus institutional district without a campus master plan for addition to an existing building that exceeds 4,000 square feet in floor area. Consideration of a conditional use in the CI district without a master plan for the establishment, improvement, or modification of a secondary use occurring outside of an enclosed building, and consideration of a conditional use pursuant to section 28.139 of the zoning code for non-residential development adjacent to a public park, all to allow construction of an addition to the Madison, James Madison Memorial High School, as well as a site changes, including the conversion of Mansfield Stadium field to a turf field. Legislator 13, item number 13, Legislator 66557, 2410 Winona Way, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a single-family residence and consideration of a conditional use to construct a new single-family residence and accessory building on lakefront parcel. And lastly, on the consent is item number 14, Legislator 67051, located at 6629 Mineral Point Road, consideration of a conditional use in the suburban employment district for general retail to allow a general retail tenant in a multi-tenant commercial building. I will close the public hearing on those items since I've opened it, and I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. If we have one, please raise a hand. Alder Commission Member Limmer.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Great. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Fernandez. Thank you very much. I will then go on to the regular agenda.
Chair Cantrell,
Yes.
could you just take the vote on that? Make sure there aren't.
Oh, I'm
any-
sorry. Sorry. I assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand. I see no raised hands, so it's unanimously approved. Thank you, Heather. Get me on track here. I will now go to item number 10, which is Legislator 66111, 517 to 521 Cottage Grove Road, consideration of a conditional use in the commercial corridor transitional district for freestanding vending and consideration of a conditional use in the commercial corridor transitional district for an outdoor eating area associated with a food and beverage establishment to add an outdoor eating area in the parking lot of a tavern and to allow food carts on site. Can we have can we have a staff presentation on this? And can you, Chris Wells?
The Chair and members of the Planning Commission. You have before you two conditional requests for freestanding vending to add a food cart or to host food carts a few times a week on the site, as well as a conditional use request to add an outdoor eating area, both along the sidewalk on Cottage Grove Road. The freestanding vending the hours would be basically from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. As I mentioned, likely just one cart on at a time. For the outdoor eating area, four-person tables for capacity of 16. Hours of 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weeknights, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. on weekends. Those hours are consistent with the hours that were approved as part of their alcohol license. And as I understand, those hours are supported by the district Alder Foster. Staff note that there are residential units roughly 150 feet away from the site of both of these, the outdoor eating area and the food cart. And staff note that we have received a letter of support from the neighborhood association in support of both. And I'm happy to answer any of the further questions after the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I will now open the public hearing. And we have one speaker, Tina Hutchison, property owner at 523 Cottage Grove Road in Madison, Wisconsin. Tina, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Starting now?
Yes, starting now. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is, I'm happy that they're here and I enjoy having the new bar in our location. I just have some issues with some of the stuff that's going on and I just want to make sure that we can get this worked out prior to all this going into place. So one of my concerns is that I have customers here and we've got a 30-foot food truck that's going in place that could be in front of my sign, which I'm not sure if anybody can see this diagram or not, but this is where the 30-foot food truck is. And according to Madison, it's supposed to be only 28 feet long. And the hours of operation that it could possibly be blocking our sign and that people could be bypassing it because it's going to be right next to our parking lot and missing their parking lot and turning into our parking lot, then which would interrupt my customers. Again, this is another area where you can see the buildings, the differentials, where we are set back from the other building. So I requested to the applicants that we put up a fence or some type of blocking so that we would not have the interruption in our parking lot based on what they have. I have no problems with them having a food cart in at all. But I have problems where it's going to be situated and where my customers feel uncomfortable if they're coming in with all this stuff going on. We've been here for 10 years and we have a lot of people that don't feel comfortable with people coming in and sitting out on the side there and kind of gawking at them and doing different things. So I'm requesting that we put a fence up and that it tear down to show our signage and that the food truck be moved back so that our signage is not blocked and that there's some type of containment for garbage and miscellaneous things. And I also think that a fence would be really nice if they wanted to make it into not only a family-friendly bar, but into a dog-friendly bar, because I have dogs coming into my facility all the time. So that would, help them. That would help me. And if we could do something to work together to make it so it's more, conducive to both of our establishments that we have. So those are one of the areas that I was talking to Ryan about and seeing if we could come up with something to make it so that I didn't have people cutting across my driveway to go into, to get to the food cart or.
Thank you, Tina. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you very much for your testimony. Do we have the applicant online? I think some of these questions we can ask staff, but I think the applicant's going to have to address some of these. But before we go to the applicant, we'll ask Chris to respond to some of the questions that Ms. Hutchinson raised. Let's see.
Were there?
It's all right.
Were there particular questions that you wanted feedback on?
Well, I guess before that, I'll ask if the commission members have any questions for the last speaker. Do the commission members have any? Yes, Commissioner Heck. If I can. Go ahead, Mr. Heck.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cantrell. Yes, if Tina is still available, I'd like to ask her just a couple of questions. Tina, first I'll say that we weren't able to see what you were showing us.
Okay, sorry.
But I was looking at the site plan submitted by the applicant while you were speaking. So I think I was able to figure out that you're to the east of the applicant's property. Is that correct?
I'm not really good at east and west, but we're close.
You're towards Stoughton Road, right?
No, we're closer to Stoughton Road. Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks. Could you describe what your business is there? I mean, I kind of missed what your business is. It involved dogs, perhaps?
Well, we have a retail kitchen and bath design center, and we sell hardware out of here. And a lot of my customers bring in their dogs and their children. And, I make it very friendly for them so that they can bring everybody in. I have no problems with dogs or kids or anything like that. So normally when the kids come in, we lock the doors. So we do a lot of designing here. People come in here to look at countertops, cabinets, hardware, flooring.
Okay. And your parking lot is in front of your building?
Yes.
And approximately how many stalls do you think you have in your parking lot?
We have 8.
Okay. And you mentioned, I think, that maybe your building sits further back from the street
Yes,
than the bar does. Okay.
mine sits about 45 inches back from the bar. So we have additional parking on the side of the building. So we have 40 feet in front of our building.
Okay. And I think as you were describing it, your parking lot area is right up against the area where the food cart will be. That's what it looks like from the.
Yes,
from the drawing.
there's about I think it was 30 inches I measured between where the concrete and the grass meet from our parking lot to their parking lot.
Okay. And what are the hours of your business typically?
We are 9 to 5 and sometimes later based on when customers can come in. So we make it conducive to when people can come in.
And is that Monday through Friday typically?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you describe any interactions that you did have with the applicant about perhaps a fence or other concerns related to the food cart and the outdoor area?
Well, I didn't know about the food cart until after I got the first letter, which was sent to me late. So I did address that with Chris Wells when he called me last week.
And did you talk to the bar owners?
I talked to Ryan, and I had actually I have a little 3-pound Yorkie, and I took my little Yorkie into the bar, and I said, hey, I would like to talk to you about something. And so we had a drink together, and we talked about, putting up a fence and making some barriers. And he said, yes, we could do that. We don't have the money to do that right now. At some point in time, we could do that. And then there were a couple of patrons sitting outside in his front area, and I had walked up to them, and they were older ladies. And I asked them, I said, now, if you were coming into my facility, how would you feel if people were sitting out here and all this stuff was going on? And they all said that they'd feel a little intimidated. So I told Ryan to come over, and I said, okay, I just asked them point blank out, how they would feel if somebody were to pull into my facility, if they were to pull into my facility and see all these people. And they said that they would feel intimidated.
These are customers of yours you're describing?
No, they were actually customers of his.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They were sitting out in the front seating area.
Okay. Thank you.
I even asked my own customers, and they feel the same way.
Okay. I appreciate your answers, and those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heck. Do we have any other? Yes, Commissioner Fernandez. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Cantrell. I had a question for Ms. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Is there, I guess, a couple of questions, but first of all, is there a technical or physical reason why you couldn't put the fence up on your property and accomplish this? Is it basically a cost issue then? That's the issue here?
It's a lot line issue. They have more of a lot line than we do. Our parking lot is probably about 6 inches off of theirs.
Okay, so they have more grass between the lot line. There's more grass on their side between that and any pavement.
Yeah, they have about 24 inches. We have about 6.
Okay. And would you say you're looking for Plan Commission to do something formal here?
I am.
How would this be resolved?
Well, my proposal is that we put a fence up and it tears down so it doesn't block our signage, because as we know, the city has restrictions on the height of our signage here on this street, and that it be moved, that the food truck be moved back a little bit so it's not blocking our signage. I actually proposed that he put it on the other side, but he said he was already contracting out with the restaurant on the other side. So that he didn't want to have any conflicts with that. So my proposal is that they put it there, and then I noticed that you guys, up to where he's having the outside seating, had put in handicap stalls. So I realized that he couldn't put it up against that, because the issue is when they come, they're going to pass his driveway, they're going to see the food truck, and they're going to turn into mine. And they're going to pull into my driveway, which then deters my customers.
Right. So I'm just trying to understand the issue. So in terms of moving the food truck, how far from the edge of their property would be satisfactory to your situation?
From the sidewalk line, I would
from the property line. So they right now, I don't know if there's a limit on where they can put it, but you're saying that would be remain on their property, but it would have to be a certain distance from the property line, a certain distance west of your property. What distance was?
Right. So I'm asking you, so our property line is from where our driveways meet or from where the curbs are?
The sidewalk.
The sidewalk. Okay, from the sidewalk in. I would go about 10 feet.
Oh, I see. So you're concerned they're parking too close to the sidewalk. You're not concerned they're parking too close to the property line, but too close to the sidewalk.
No, I'm concerned about them blocking my sign and having people pull into my parking lot. So where our sign is located at, we are actually a half a foot from where the sidewalk starts, is where our sign starts.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for this registrant? Seeing none. I was just wondering, is the applicant online?
Yes, Ryan is available for questions and
Okay.
has registered. And so it looks like they're also raising their hand at this point.
Okay, and I'll recognize Ryan Ramming at 3818 Atwood Avenue. So you have, I guess, if you want to speak for 3 minutes, you could speak and address some of the questions raised by Tina. Go ahead, Ryan.
My name is Ryan Ramig. I'm the owner of the Dive In. For the last couple months, we've been opened. I'd just like to start by saying that we have the support of Alder Foster. We have the approval and support of the Lake Edge Neighborhood Association. And we also have the approval and support of the Red Lion, the restaurant next door to us. My first question is, Tina refers to customers being concerned with quote unquote, all this stuff going on, end quote. I don't understand what she means by all this stuff going on and how that will intimidate her customers. I actually think, and I told Tina this, I think it could be a good thing for her business. First of all, the Red Lion's business is up 20% since our bar opened. We work very, very closely with them, and people are having sushi dates at the dive bar, and it's been a really awesome organic relationship, and I'm happy to support him. That leads me to one reason why we wouldn't have it on that side of the lot. Obviously, we're sandwiched between a cabinet place and a restaurant. Although we have Red Lion's approval and support, we don't want to slap a food cart on that side of the property right next to another restaurant. So we'll have a little bit of a separation there. I told Tina that if she's concerned, her concern about people parking in her parking lot, first of all, these are all hypotheticals, but I am totally in support of not having anybody park in her lot, and I will pay for signs if need be that says cabinet center parking only. Also, regarding blocking the sign, I definitely don't want to block her sign, and I will work with her so that her sign is in view. But I also ask if there's a fence up, if there's a fence up in the property line, how is that different, and how is that not going to block her sign? I think she said it would be a tiered fence, but I guess I just, I don't understand what the customer's concern with quote unquote all this stuff going on, end quote. The way I see it is there's gonna, we're attracting a really great crowd, black, white, young, old, gay, straight. There's gonna be a line of potential new customers. Let's say there is a line at the food cart. Well, people are gonna look over there and say, oh, look, there's a cabinet shop there. And that's going to plant a seed in their head so that maybe in a year or two, when they go to remodel their kitchen, they'll say, oh yeah, remember that little cabinet shop next to the dive-in? Let's try them out. So I don't see how it could affect her business negatively, only positively.
Thank you, Ryan. Your 3 minutes is up. Do we have any questions for Ryan? Yes, Alder Heck.
Sorry, I muted myself accidentally.
Okay.
Ryan, can you describe the current activities on that side of the dive-in? It looks like maybe your smoking area is out there now, and I assume sometimes people are out on that side of the bar.
Yes, sir. We have, so we wanted to be family friendly, and we didn't want people entering this nice new bar and having to walk through a cloud of cigarette smoke. So we positioned the smoking section to the side because we also couldn't do it in the back out of respect for those neighbors back there. Yes, sir, that's where it is. So yes, we have a 4-person smoking table with 2 ashtrays right there. And previously before us, with the old bar, it was a large dumpster in that spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I see your proposal is 4 tables out front, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you've already been to the ALRC and received your liquor license, obviously, and you've also you have hours established through ALRC for this outdoor area from what I've seen, although Plan Commission has purview in that matter too. But you've been through all the ALRC steps, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm looking at the layout that's up on our screens that Chris Wells is showing, and I think I'll ask Chris about this when we get to asking staff questions, but is there a possibility to nudge the food cart a little bit towards the smoking area without impacting your plan?
Yes, sir.
And that would perhaps block the signage less from your neighbors, but I don't know exactly where the sign is. I can't remember from the description.
Yes, sir. I'm very, very willing to work with Tina, and I by no means want to block her sign.
Okay, and can you tell me from your estimation about where the sign is from, let's say the sidewalk? I can't remember the description.
I have no clue where Tina's sign is.
Okay, we'll figure that out then. Thank you. That's my questions.
Are there any other questions for Ryan? I have a question. Your neighbor raised the question about garbage. I'm assuming any type of trash receptacles connected with the food cart have to be arranged with the food cart owner. Is that correct?
Actually, I foresee us handling the garbage. We will have a garbage and a recycling bin outside, and bar staff will tend to all the outdoor eating and garbage.
Okay. And how long? I see your site plan, but how long is the food cart? It looks maybe 25 feet or so, or in
Yeah,
length.
could you zoom in a little more down there? I mean, so we had a designer do this, and it's all tentative. I mean, we all know what your average food cart size is. And this iteration right here is, I believe it's taking into account a truck still attached to it. So detaching the cart and moving the truck somewhere else would also reduce how many feet it is.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, 30 feet seems a long distance for a food cart.
Yeah.
But you could detach the vehicle and have it parked in the parking lot or somewhere else off-site.
Yeah, then I imagine, and I'm just spitballing, but I imagine if you detach the truck and just plop the food cart down, I bet you we're about half that size now.
I would think that's correct. Okay. Matt Tucker has something to. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Lots of technical questions. When you get to questions, I can answer them. That'll help you understand how this works.
Okay. Are there any other questions for this registrant? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And are there questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Heck.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'll ask either Chris or Matt, whichever is appropriate, about requirements for the food cart location in terms of distance from lot lines, distance from the sidewalk, and also just a clarification too. This is, make sure I understand this. This is not a streetery application. This is a conditional use for a more permanent permit, I guess, to have these facilities, correct?
Sure, I can take those questions. Good evening, everyone. There is currently a streetery approval for this property. This is not related to that. This is a request for a permanent outdoor seating area associated with a food and beverage establishment, which is common coming across the desk of the Plan Commission, particularly before COVID. It happened quite a bit. But there is a temporary streetery there now. In theory, it'll be replaced by this new permanent outdoor seating area. There was another question about the rules for food carts. The way that the food cart allowance is set up via zoning is to basically co-opt all the rules that are in for street vending. There are requirements for trash collection. There are requirements for size of carts, etc. The reason was eventually if we do move to food trucks and allow vehicles that are larger, a food truck could just basically take over what today is a space that is designed or allowed for a food cart. So what would be acceptable on this site starting, pending approval would be the food carts. It might be 2, it could be 1 within the area. It's designated on the plan. There's not a requirement that it be set back from the property line. There is a requirement that it not, things like this not obstruct vision clearance at driveways. There's the easternmost driveway. I will note it's sort of puzzling that there aren't comments from traffic engineering, but it very obviously obstructs the exit path of that drive and makes the entrance path useless. The only vehicles that may pull in there would be service vehicles to get to the dumpster. So that would be something I'm guessing will be handled as part of final sign off. Maybe it's narrowing of that opening, so there's no longer a driveway vision clearance issue with a food cart sitting inside of 10 feet from the public sidewalk. Basically, it's that driveway vision triangle that is at question here. But like I said, I'm not sure. I haven't heard or seen anything from traffic engineering comments wise, but typically in a situation like this, we're looking at the driveway having to be narrowed, and that'll be something to follow up on. I did also I have if you have other things, I could answer some other questions that were brought up.
I have one more question for you, and that would be, if a fence were to be installed between these two properties, how close to the sidewalk could it be?
The fence, a 6-foot tall fence, is allowed up to where the driveway vision clearance requirements apply. And then it would need to step down to, I believe the max height, I think is 30 inches, 10 feet from the driveway. But if this driveway narrows, if the easternmost part comes in, the fence may be allowed to be taller out towards the street or towards the sidewalk. It really depends on where the driveway is. The driveway on Ms. Hutchinson's property is not in the driveway vision clearance area. Her parking area actually is a parking stall there. There's a vehicle could be parked. It appears right adjacent to where, right up to almost the sidewalk.
And the maximum height of a fence is 6 feet?
Yes.
6 feet. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez, do you have a question? Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm trying to find
Sidewalk.
Could you you were muted for.
Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, the question for Matt: is there a technical reason why that 30-foot space couldn't be redesignated as a 20-foot space, minimum 10 feet from the sidewalk? It seems to me even if that driveway is narrowed, that is still going to interfere with the vision triangle. May not physically interfere with the driveway the way it looks like it does right now. But at any rate, the real question is, you said 30 feet is possibly could accommodate 2 food trucks or 2 food carts or a food truck in the future. Is there a reason why we couldn't designate only 20 feet and assume that that is going to be 1 food cart and that's it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I heard my mic wasn't coming through clear. Sure, you could require the area where the food cart sits to be set back 10 feet and have that area be 20 feet. It could accommodate just a single food cart if you wanted. That is a condition you could very easily apply.
Do you have any follow-up, Commissioner Hernandez?
I mean, I guess I would ask Chris Wells if he has any concerns with that kind of a condition being applied to it.
Chris?
I don't have any concerns, but I would just like to quickly share my screen and show the street view looking down Cottage Grove, so heading east. This is the subject property over, see my cursor, the interior decorating establishment. The red sign in the distance is the sign of question. The property line starts obviously at the back of the sidewalk. So food cart, right? A food cart, there's no way that it's going to block the sign. You wouldn't be able to read the sign at a distance, 50 yards back. So by the time that you're reading the sign, I would argue that this street tree blocks the sign more than any fence would. So I just wanted to make the commission aware.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any questions for Chris? Thank you, Chris. That was very good. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none. Do we have a motion? Yes. Commissioner Heck. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm going to move that we grant approval of the 2 conditional uses that are requested and include the conditions of approval in the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lemer. Any discussion to the motion?
Just a couple of things. I appreciate that the neighbor is concerned about the sign blockage, but I do think that the Google Street View was informative. And in terms of the activities on the property, I really don't see how it's going to be much different than the current situation, particularly given that the business hours of the food cart, they could be there as early as 11 a.m. and serving lunch to folks outside. That doesn't seem to me to be much of a problem. And I doubt that there's going to be a lot of rowdy behavior in the early afternoon at a food cart. But I appreciate the concerns about the sign, and the applicant stated a willingness to push the food carts back a little bit, and rather than dictate that and micromanage it, I think I'd just rather rely on neighborly gestures to take care of that concern.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other comments? Seeing no raised hands, I'll assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand. Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Moving on to the next and last item on the agenda is item number 15, Legislator 67074. And it's a substitute repealing and recreating section 28.185 to remove consideration of proposed future use for demolition applications and create limited administrative approval for some demolition categories. Heather, do you have a presentation here?
Sure, I'll just do a quick overview. Thank you, Brad. And I want to mention we have Assistant City Attorney Kate Smith here with us, and also Building Inspection Director Matt Tucker, and they can take questions as well if any come up. This is fairly straightforward. I know that the Plan Commission discussed this at length at a July 26th meeting, where we had then Assistant City Attorney John Strange there as well, presenting an overview of the demolition changes. And I just want to summarize them very quickly. So I think the major change, as referenced in the staff memo, is that these changes remove the Plan Commission's consideration of the proposed future use when they're considering a demolition. And the reason for that is really twofold. First of all, for future uses that are permitted uses, any Plan Commission's consideration of the proposed future use is really not legal. You know, since zoning does permit certain uses to move forward, that can't be with an asterisk. We need to make sure that the uses that are allowable as permitted uses in the district can move forward. And then the second reason really is, and all of you are quite accustomed to seeing proposals come through that involve a demolition and a conditional use together. And as you know, we have over a dozen standards related to the conditional use being proposed. Therefore, if we kept the demolition standards related to the proposed future use, when something's a conditional use, those standards are really redundant. And so it made sense to remove them for all cases. So that's the real substance to this change. Meanwhile, we did make, as the Plan Commission had discussed in the past, some small allowances for administrative review of demolition. And this may be something the Commission revisits in the future to make it more expansive, but at this point, it's really a limited list. In all cases, the city's Landmarks Commission will still be reviewing on an informal basis any proposed demolition of a principal building. And only when they find that there's no historic value of the building or property, so when they give their quote green light recommendation to the Plan Commission, the demolition review could move forward administratively if certain conditions are met. And as mentioned in the staff memo, those include the building is structurally unsound or being demolished due to fire or natural disaster. It's been identified for removal in an adopted campus master plan, which UW-Madison is the only one we have in the city, or the buildings are being demolished for replacement with income-restricted housing units subsidized by the city of Madison. And that was where we wanted to provide at least a chance for an easier, more straightforward process for the city-subsidized affordable housing projects, as we discussed on the 26th. With that, I will offer to take any questions. And again, Kate and Matt are here as well. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'll open the public hearing, and there are no speakers listed. And so I'll close the public hearing and now open it up for questions for staff. Commissioner Fernandez, you had a question.
Thank you, Commissioner Cantrell. For Heather, we did consider this on July 26th at some length. Could you remind me what was the action? Did we refer it at that time? I mean, is there anything different now than there was then?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Commissioner Fernandez. So it was actually on June 26th, I misspoke. June 26th, the Plan Commission just discussed this on an informal basis. And so it wasn't before this body formally for a decision. It was prior to the formal drafting of the ordinance. And we wanted to get some insights from the Plan Commission and some guidance direction for how best to move it forward. And so you're right that there are very few substantive changes since that discussion. The one I mentioned in the memo, as you may recall, there was a long discussion about how we might take into account naturally occurring affordable housing, and a lot of confusion on the part of the Plan Commission and staff related to ambiguity in that term. And so we determined that it would be best to actually remove that from consideration. Sponsors agreed, and we moved forward with a simpler draft.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Heather? Yes, Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. Heather, this is for you. I believe we probably discussed this, but I'm wondering about when administrative approval is possible, given one of those several categories that are listed in the proposed ordinance. When administrative approval is possible, is it always the case that the alder of the district could put the brakes on that and say, well, I think I'd rather have it go to Plan Commission, or is that not? I don't think that's mentioned. Is it just sort of assumed, or how would that work out?
Good question. Right now, that is not covered in the ordinance. And so the way it would work would be that, if one of these somewhat rare conditions were met, the structurally unsound, the fire, natural disaster, campus master plan, or income restricted units subsidized by the city, and the Landmarks Commission found that there was no historic value of the building or property, it would automatically then, after that Landmarks Commission informal advice, would go to the building inspection director for staff to administratively review and approve that demolition. And so there is not currently a mechanism for alder input on sort of that fork in the road.
Okay.
There certainly could be, but there's not as it's written.
I'm not even sure as if it's necessary, but I just thought of this as potentially coming up, so I'll have to mull that over. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Hagenow.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could, I just popped into my head, but I'm wondering how this ordinance change would have affected one of the recent, the Wonder Bar when that came to us, and how that building would have fallen into this whole scenario.
Sure, great question. I think that there are many triggers within the proposal involving the Wonder Bar that would have brought this to the Plan Commission and ultimately the council. One, in that case, a rezoning was being sought. That in the demolition of the building, actually, when the Landmarks Commission reviewed it, they didn't provide their green light finding that this was not historically significant at all. And so that right there, the Landmark Commission's informal advisory recommendation that it has some historic significance. In fact, they had a stronger recommendation than that, would have brought it to the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you.
And the other bit is that it would be also they were seeking a conditional use, a rezoning and a conditional use approval.
Yes, Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you again for Heather. What would be, let's take for the Wonder Bar as an example. If the historic concerns were resolved, what other grounds would there be for Plan Commission to refuse a demolition permit?
If the historic,
that's not a question. Assuming the Landmarks Commission did not have a concern, and we're not allowed to consider future uses as a concern, what would be a legitimate grounds for questioning or denying a demolition permit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question as well. I mean, the Plan Commission could make their own finding that it's historically significant, but that the focus of the Plan Commission review should be on the existing building and not on the proposed new building. So it's really focusing that review on the merits of the building that exists today that's proposed for demolition. But disagreeing with the Landmarks Commission advice would be well within the realm of what the Plan Commission could do.
Right. So the Plan Commission could find that it has historic value, but let's say that's not the issue. I mean, let's say it has value as naturally occurring moderate income housing, or the Plan Commission feels that it has some value. But the property owner says, but I don't want it anymore. I want to take it down. What would be the grounds for Plan Commission to deny that permit other than historic considerations? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, the question does make sense. I'm just looking at the standards for approval here. Let's see. So I think really I'll go back to it as drafted. I mean, the one that really makes the most sense is related to the historic value. It's standard number 4 the Plan Commission has received and considered the report of either the Preservation Planner or the Landmarks Commission. Now, the Plan Commission can do with that report what they will, but it has to have been considered. And let's see, I think that when you look at, let me share screen here, just a second. So the piece that really ties this all together, and you can see it in the substitute that was prepared when we recognized as a staff team that we needed something to tie all this together. It's number 7 here. And so the Plan Commission is considering all of the information, whether they get it from the Landmarks Commission, the Fire Department, et cetera, itemized in 1 through 6, and ultimately finds that the proposed demolition is consistent with both the statement of purpose of the section, which I can go to if you'd like, and then with the broader health, prosperity, safety, and welfare of the city. And so it's a very broad standard, and it's similar to the standards for rezoning that the Plan Commission and Council consider. Would it help if I went back to the statement of purpose as well?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That works for me.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing none, is there a motion? Commissioner Heck.
I'll move that Plan Commission recommend to Common Council that we approve this ordinance change.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Lemer seconds the motion. Thank you. I'll assume unanimous would you like to speak to your motion, Commissioner? Okay. No. So I'll assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand. Seeing no raised hands, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving to the end of the agenda, we have business by members. Do we have any issues with business by members? Seeing none. And Secretary's report. Heather, would you like to go over that?
I sure will. Thank you, Chair Cantrell. First, I wanted to mention for our September 30th work session, the main focus will be on distributed green infrastructure. So things like pervious pavers, green roofs, our landscape planting standards, and ways that our zoning code might be able to undergo some slight changes to better align with stormwater regulations. We'll have a consultant who's been working with our city engineering team, and they've also been working a little bit with us in planning and zoning as well. And they'll be really leading a lot of the discussion on the 30th. And then looking up to our next couple of regularly scheduled meetings, on October 4th, we'll have a sub-area planning heavy meeting. We'll have updates on both the Greater Easttown area plan. We may have the city's Economic Development Committee joining us for that portion of the meeting. They had some quorum problems when the plan was going to be presented to them. And so we're in the midst of finding out whether enough of them might be able to join for that meeting. And then we'll also have a South Madison plan update and an overview of the Town of Madison attachment. As you might imagine, agencies across the city are planning and preparing for the October 2022 attachment of the town. And we'll provide the Plan Commission with an overview of that work. And those are the main discussion items, I think, for October 4th. On October 18th, as well as the item that was referred this evening, the State and Gorham item will be discussed on the 4th. On October 18th, we'll have the proposed rezoning of property on the southeast side to create appropriate zoning to accommodate a mission camp. So a campground facility that the city will be initiating in that area. And then others that I'll mention, the 2300 South Park Street, a demolition of a portion of the Village on Park building to create additional space for structured parking in that area. And then also 2002 Winnebago Street. This is a demolition of the Stop and Go site, conditional use for a new 4-story mixed-use building. And I'll also mention 1501 Monroe Street, which is the conversion of Hotel Red into a mixed-use building with apartment units.
Great.
So we anticipate a fairly robust set of discussions on October 18th. And that is where I'll leave it this evening. Thank you.
Okay. The next item, thank you, Heather. The next item is announcements. Seeing no announcements, and then adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Commissioner Lemire. Do you have a second? Second by Commissioner Alvarez. Thank you very much. And see you on September 30th. Bye-bye.